Hey there, and welcome to Forever War, now featuring Iran. Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed anti-war president with the attention span of a caffeinated squirrel and the foreign policy instincts of a cornered raccoon, has done it again. He's bombed Iran, or rather, he's launched a limited and targeted military response according to the thesaurus-wielding ghosts of the Pentagon press office, because calling it war would, apparently, be too honest, or perhaps too legally inconvenient. But let's be perfectly clear, the United States has gone to war. Again. This time with a heavily sanctioned, diplomatically isolated country of 90 million people, many of whom just woke up to find cruise missiles replacing streetlights. Trump insists it's not a war because he says so. He also says it's not about regime change, which is cute, considering the craters left behind and the rhetoric of total victory. This is like burning down someone's house and then calmly telling the neighbors you're not a pyromaniac. But before we get into the thick of it all, and if you're tired of war being the default US foreign policy, hit like, subscribe, and let's question the narrative before it rewrites history again. Number 1. The nuclear threat that just won't quit. The official reason for the attack? Iran is allegedly developing a nuclear weapon, or planning to, or thinking about it really hard in a suspicious way. This is based not on actual evidence, mind you, but on the fever dream paranoia of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been warning for 30 years that Iran is about to nuke Tel Aviv next Tuesday. Always next Tuesday. Netanyahu's track record on Iran is kind of like a broken clock, wrong most of the time, and still trusted by those with the attention span of a fruit fly. Trump. His latest claim that Iran was weaponizing its uranium stockpile is not supported by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, by US intelligence, or even Trump's own Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. The CIA has made it clear Iran isn't building a bomb and hasn't been since at least 2003. But facts, as always, are optional when you're the commander-in-chief of American exceptionalism. In Trump's version of events, he had no choice but to believe Netanyahu. After all, nothing says trustworthy like a man who spent 3 decades crying nuclear wolf while bulldozing international law and calling it self-defense. This is Iraq 2.0. This time, it's even stupider though. If this all sounds familiar, that's because we've seen this movie before. In fact, it's the same movie, only the VHS has been chewed by a dog and someone replaced Colin Powell with a Fox News reporter. We have the same cocktail of shaky intelligence, media complicity, performative outrage, and complete disregard for international law. Just swap Saddam for the Ayatollah and the PowerPoint slides for drone footage. Just like Iraq in 2003, this intervention has no clear objective, no measurable benchmarks, and no exit strategy. Is it meant to destroy nuclear capabilities, topple the regime, prove Trump has big bombs? Who knows? Certainly not the White House, which seems to be making it up as it goes along, like a toddler playing Risk with real soldiers. And just like Iraq, this has all the hallmarks of a forever war in the making. The US is now fully committed, militarily and politically, to a conflict with no end in sight. And no one in the administration seems to have read past Chapter 1 of Middle East Geopolitics for Dummies. Iran will not vanish, neither will the consequences. Here is the inconvenient truth. Iran isn't going anywhere. You cannot bomb a country of 90 million people off the map. You can't erase a nation's scientific expertise with airstrikes, and you certainly cannot convince a people under siege to abandon their sovereignty just because the guy dropping the bombs once hosted The Apprentice. Iran has already vowed retaliation. US military bases in Bahrain, Iraq, Kuwait, and Qatar are now potential bullseyes. 40,000 American troops just got moved from deployed to target practice. And that's just the beginning. Tehran's allies, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, various militias in Iraq and Syria aren't exactly known for restraint. The Red Sea is already under threat. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow passage through which a fifth of the world's oil flows, could be mined. Oil prices are spiking. Global markets are panicking. And Washington is blinking like a man who suddenly realized he kicked a hornet's nest while wearing flip-flops. International law? Well, apparently they've never heard of it. Then there's the legality, or rather the total absence of it. International law is crystal clear. You cannot bomb another sovereign country unless you are under imminent threat, or you have UN authorization. Neither of those conditions were met. Not even close. But in the post-9/11 age, the rules-based international order has become more of a polite suggestion than an enforceable norm, especially if you're armed with F-35s and a permanent seat at the Security Council. And let's not pretend this was done in isolation. The Israeli strikes that triggered this wave of escalation were just as illegal. But when your closest ally greenlights the demolition of another country's territory, based on what amounts to geopolitical superstition, it's easier to join the party than be the buzzkill calling for restraint. Diplomacy is dead. Long live the bomb. Remember the 2015 Iran nuclear deal? The one negotiated by Obama, the EU, Russia, China, and the IAEA? The deal that actually curtailed Iran's uranium enrichment under strict inspections? Trump tore it up in 2018 because it was a bad deal that didn't allow him to put his name on it in gold leaf. And the result? Iran resumed enrichment, distrust deepened, and the last shreds of diplomatic goodwill went up in smoke. Now, after years of sanctions, assassinations, sabotage, and cyber attacks, Washington is shocked that Iran doesn't want to negotiate under threat of bombardment. The Ayatollah has responded with all the diplomacy of a barroom bouncer. No options are off the table. So let's recap. Trump took a peaceful, monitored, multilateral agreement, shredded it, antagonized a regional power, bombed them, and is now wondering why they're not picking up the phone. Brilliant. The road to an Iranian bomb starts here. If Iran wasn't building a bomb before, it now has every incentive to start. That's the real irony. By attacking Iran to prevent nuclear weapons, Trump may have guaranteed that Iran will pursue them. Why wouldn't they? North Korea has nukes and gets summits, not sanctions. Pakistan gets billions in military aid. But Iran, despite complying with international inspections, gets bombed. The message is clear. Get a nuke or get invaded. It's geopolitical blackmail dressed up as non-proliferation. And other countries are taking notes. Saudi Arabia is reportedly exploring its own nuclear program. Japan and South Korea may reconsider their non-nuclear stance. The age of proliferation is upon us, and the man lighting the fuse is sitting in the Oval Office bragging about his beautiful missiles. Trump's trap is everyone's problem. Let's not forget who set the stage: Netanyahu. He's been trying to drag the US into open conflict with Iran for years, and now he succeeded. Trump, ever the reality TV star, fell for the oldest trick in the neoconservative playbook: get the US to do the dirty work, then call it a shared victory. But this isn't a win. This is a catastrophe in slow motion. The people who will suffer most are the usual suspects: Iranian civilians, American soldiers, Israeli families, and anyone foolish enough to believe that peace is still a possibility. Meanwhile, the US media, with few exceptions, is doing its usual job of normalizing madness. The bombing of a sovereign state, op-eds writing their hands about tough decisions as if there were no better options than a missile strike. The pom-poms are out, the flags are waving, and the engines of forever war are humming back to life. The US just became more isolated, therefore more dangerous. Europe, to its credit, is largely staying out of this one. The UK Starmer issued the usual empty call for restraint, while Germany and France have adopted their usual strategy of strongly worded shrugs. But make no mistake, America's unilateralism is back, and it's uglier than ever. Global trust in American leadership, already on life support, is now being buried in a shallow grave somewhere in the Iranian desert. The IAEA, once a respected nuclear watchdog, is now being sidelined. The UN is being ignored, and countries like China and Russia are happily watching the US burn its remaining credibility on a bonfire of hubris. This is the real price of Trump's foreign policy: isolation disguised as strength, aggression disguised as strategy, and stupidity disguised as patriotism. So, what now? Well, in the short term, escalation is inevitable, and it already happened. By the time I'm filming this video, Iran did retaliate, the US will respond, Israel will push for more, American troops will die, civilians will suffer, and the world will inch closer to a confrontation that no one, not even Netanyahu, can fully control. In the medium term, the consequences will ripple outward. The global non-proliferation regime is shattered. Diplomacy is in retreat, authoritarian regimes everywhere will feel emboldened, and the message is clear: the only real protection is the bomb. And in the long term, we may look back on this moment as a hinge in history, the day America decided, yet again, to bomb first and think later. Only this time, the fallout may not be metaphorical. So yes, the US just bombed Iran, and no, it's not a war. It's just the beginning of a war. If this video resonated with you, if you're exhausted by the cycle of endless wars dressed up as limited strikes and the media spin that follows, do me a favor, hit that like button, share this with someone who still thinks bombing leads to peace, and subscribe for more brutally honest breakdowns of foreign policy. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Is this déjà vu all over again, or something even worse? Let's keep the pressure on, stay informed, and make sure we're not sleepwalking into another catastrophe, because silence, as history shows, is complicity. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.